was a patient, I was a kid going through these things. That our team members are not working from pressure, but they're working from purpose. Hey, we're out there doing something. Our badge of honor is I'm busy.
Um,
Like what it's got is busy,
True.
busy, busy. You're gonna have to pause, you're gonna have to reflect, you're gonna have to realign, you're gonna have to be still to see the talents. It was only with me growing in that leadership and being aware of that that I was able to manage both. Otherwise, I was exhausted.
Thanks for joining me. And today we have with us in the studio none other than Hanna Bauer, the founder and CEO of Heartonomics Enterprises LLC. Hannah ignites an evolution of organizational excellence. She teaches how to improve your organization's positive impact and how fulfilled human potential and maximum profits can coexist. Resilience for your workforce and competitive market positioning is another thing that she talks about. And today on this podcast, she joins us to speak about hustle with the heart. Hannah, welcome to the Payal Nanjiani Leadership Podcast. Really glad to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much, Payal. It's honestly a pleasure. I love what you're doing around the world. I love how you're sitting out there, leadership, and having this kind of conversations. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, and I appreciate the way, you're talking about hustle with the heart, and I can see your face glowing. I can see all the smile, and it seems you yourself are always out there talking with your heart, being there out fully. How did this journey start?
Well, it's all hard, right? Well, actually, my journey started with the heart as a kid, and where my heart was not functioning properly. So I actually learned a lot how it feels when you're not in rhythm, when your heart is not operating in full, when you want greater things. In my case, I wanted to live, right? Yet when my heart was not cooperating, I'm battling a terminal disease at the time, since the age of 4. So I learned early on what it was to be misaligned and out of rhythm. And that's what later on, and I mean, we'll go a little bit more into it, but later on in life, I started realizing that in my leadership as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, I was having the same feelings now, no longer with a heart disease, but in my leadership journey. And then that's where that connection came. And
Yeah.
I had to become intentional to get back in rhythm, to get the enjoyment and really have the same desire I did as a kid to live out my life, live out my business, live out my leadership. And that's where all of this started coming from making that connection that there is an alignment, there is a rhythm. Even in the work that we do, when we align the purpose, the people, and really the performance that we want to see from ourselves.
Wow. So, I mean, your own story became a stepping stone to get you to understand the importance of what alignment with the heart looks like.
Yeah, yeah. And I would say I would love to take credit for that myself, but no, actually it was even beyond me, right? I mean, I was a kid.
Uh,
So there was not much I could do. I was a patient, I was a kid going through these things.
hmm,
But in that, my role was in not only following and breathing, following the leadership from those around me, right? But I got to observe at a young age what the language of love is and also the language of excellence. And in love, um, the sustainability really that came because it was love kicked in when it was agonizing, when it was uncertain, when there was no hope, when it seemed like there's no solutions, we don't know what to do.
hmm,
My essentially for me, the episodes I would go through would just start. Anything would make it start. I would go from regular heartbeat to 240 beats per minute, and it would stay in that for hours, weeks at a time. So
hmm,
you can imagine by day 2, by day 3, I'm exhausted. It's like I've been running a marathon, and there's really not a medication that I could take. There was no
yeah.
intervention, there was no hospital I could go to. And it was that love of my family, especially my grandmother, that
Hmm,
sustained me through that. And also seeing the medical community, I started learning that language of excellence because, in light of we don't know what to do, in light of
yeah.
failed drugs, failed interventions, failed surgeries, it's still let's keep going. What did we learn? What can we try? What did we learn? What do we do better? What did we learn that eventually led to an innovative surgery for me, where it's called the heart ablation. And now, and I didn't even know that, right? Like I didn't know when I was a kid all of this is going on. I mean, I knew the pain. I knew the
Yeah,
suffering. I knew
yeah.
the things I
But
couldn't do.
we're not able to make sense out of what's happening.
No, but I realized later on what the impact was. And that's really what brought it together for me as an adult, is also realizing as a leader, as a mom, as an entrepreneur, as we know that living life in the work that we
Yeah.
do, sometimes we go through these struggles and these uncertainties and we don't know it and this and we not only go through it, we overcome through it.
Hmm.
And the impact many times you won't know until later on. In my case, I learned the impact 20 years later when I found out that 3,000 other kids had been saved from that surgery that I
Wow.
was the first one to be a part of.
Oh
So
my.
it was yeah, right. It's like that impact, like suddenly from all that pain, things I didn't know.
Yeah.
But that's what woke up the passion in me to like, hey, you know what? I gotta continue. I gotta take those 2 points. The
Hmm.
love, we need that to sustain during hard times, and the excellence, which is the ability to, in failure, keep going and learning in the failure, not to be afraid
Hmm.
of failure, because that is excellence. Excellence is not perfection. Excellence is
True.
that commitment, right?
Hmm.
To from our failures, from living, from leading, from going forward, what did we learn? And within that excellence, we come up with innovative ideas.
Hmm. You're very right because you're not aiming for perfectionism. You're not looking at the results. You know where you're going to head to, but that's when you get the, I would say, the inspiration to fail even 1,000 times because you know
Oh,
that
yeah.
you are working towards something. So, Hannah, how did, like when you talk about hustle with the heart, what does it
Yeah.
actually mean that you hustle with the heart? It's such a different concept that I've heard.
Yeah, well, for what I how I have brought it is being in alignment. One of the things is for me, knowing what it's not to be in alignment, right? Like where my heart was beating well, or when it was, there's times when even when you work out, right? Like when you work out, your heart is going to go fast. It's
Yeah.
supposed to. It's supposed to respond to the activity that you're
Yes.
doing. But
Right.
also there's a time to rest, and
Yeah.
there's also a time to recover.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a time for that. So hustle with heart is being aware of that, the same thing in our business, to where we're not just doing, 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 but
Mm.
being aware in the rhythm, the bringing the alignment, because as leaders, that's what we do. We bring alignment to the work that we're doing.
Mm.
We help bring awareness to the purpose, but we're also making that space, right?
Yeah.
Where there's space, there's safety in that space so that our team members can grow, so that our team members, their talents can be leveraged. And
Mm.
so that our team members are not working from pressure, but they're working from purpose. I'm
Mm.
not going to say there's not going to be challenges. Obviously, there's challenge. I mean, you don't have to ask for pressure. That's around us.
True. True.
As a leader, we make a space that in that pressure,
Mm.
we're still able to operate and tap into our purpose. So that's hustle with heart. It's not just let's
Wow.
get done. Let's do one more thing, one more thing, one more thing. It's
I
knowing we can
resonate with
impact.
what you said, you know. So in one of my books, I have written that we are not human doings, we are human beings.
Right.
Just like you said, it's all about doing, doing, doing. And then all of a sudden, you know, you realize later on that you just overworking yourself, your body, and everything after that.
Yeah, and it's a big thing, right? Because we talk about sustainability a lot. I mean, I
Mhm.
work with
Yeah.
nonprofits. And that's what they're asking. Well, the first question is, how are you going to stay sustainable? Like we give you this funds. What's the sustainability model?
Yeah.
With business, right? Your business plans, they're asking you, well, how is that sustainable? Like how are you going to continue to engage your
Mm.
clients? So we always this question of sustainability in environment, sustainability. And I will ask that same question. We as leaders need to ask, okay, you leader, how are you staying sustainable?
Mm.
Because in doing all these things,
Yeah.
right? You gotta be. And
Correct.
that's what sustain is in the
Yeah.
being, is in
Absolutely.
embracing all of that.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a big, big believer of it. So I'm so glad you brought this out on the podcast. So how does one know that you're out of alignment?
Oh, well, exhaustion is one. I mean,
Ah.
for it's exhaustion. Is
Uh-huh.
that whole, I mean, and sometimes we carry like as leaders and hey, we're out there doing something. Our badge of honor is I'm busy.
Oh,
Like what is that? It's busy,
true.
busy, busy.
Yeah.
But yet
That's
business,
that's like a
right?
currency word now. If you're busy equals
Yes.
currency. That's how it's become, you know.
And think about that. Why does that become our currency? Because we think in
Mm.
our busyness comes our value. And we tend to equate my busyness, like well, by going back to what you were saying, we're not human doings, but
Mm.
in human beings and we equate busyness with value, and we can't do that. So, but again, it's real coming to the realization of that, because when you're in the midst of it, unless you take the time to stop, right, to rest, kind of like the
Mhm.
same way. Let's say if you're running, you're exercising a marathon, the way that you're going to recover and realize, hey, how you're feeling and you're recovering well and all this stuff, if when you stop. Not in the middle of it. In the middle of it, you may collapse. Then you'll know you're really bad. But you know
Right.
when you're in misalignment, when what you're doing is not fulfilling. There's a lot of busyness, but there's not this reward that comes in. Again, we not to confuse that it's not like where you're ambitious and that, but even you, those things that you are so passionate about, the more you do them, the more fulfilling they feel. But when that lack of fulfillment is not there, it's not part of your everyday, then you know that there's a misalignment going on.
Hmm.
When it
Hmm.
starts showing up many times in illness, we talked
Yeah,
about
a
the immune
lot.
system. We talk about stress. We talk
Correct.
about relationships. So that's in the personal one, right? In a business, how does that show up? Conflicting priorities. One
Yeah.
day you're doing one thing in the morning, in the afternoon you're having to explain yourself why you did that because another leader
Right.
told you to do that.
And
That,
I think
that's
it also
misalignment.
does it also not impact your decision making because you're so stressed
Oh yeah.
out, you're so burnt out.
100%, because you cannot focus. You don't
Mm.
know what priority is. And sometimes you're in automatic and not really taking assessment of what's going on. Do I need to really be doing this? And
Mm.
and this is one of the quotes that really got to me, right? And I heard it early on when I in my teenage years, where, the goal is not nearly accomplishing the goal is not nearly as important as what you become in
Mm.
accomplishing that goal. And I
Agreed.
think for a lot of us is more that, hey, I did this, I did that, I did this in the becoming. Well, what did it cost me to do that?
Yeah.
You know, what did it is, am I okay with that cost? Am I
Hmm.
better? What did I learn? Right? I mean, like with me, right? They were doing a lot of surgeries that didn't work,
Hmm.
so we didn't accomplish the goal, but in a sense, yes, we did, because
Right.
eventually it led to that innovative surgery. But in the becoming, right? So it's like, what is the cost? What is the cost in
Hmm.
what we're doing? Am I becoming? Am I challenging? Am I being feeling fulfilled? I run into a lot of leaders and companies where they're so siloed in doing the work that they don't even know why we're doing the work.
Yeah.
Why are we doing
Yeah.
this? Everything's
Very right.
changing around that, you know? And it's a waste. It's one of the things that we talk about even in Six Sigma is the over processing. Sometimes we have over
True.
processing. You have to fill out the same form for here, then the same form for here, the same form for here, or maybe
Yeah.
you automate it, and then you get 10 forms of the same thing, and you can't decide, well, which one's the one that matters?
True.
Because then you have
Exactly.
too much.
And there's so much of information these days, so much of choices these days. People have this FOMO, fear of missing out. And in all of
Oh
this,
yeah.
you want to accumulate everything. You don't want to miss out on anything, like you said.
And I agree. I mean, I suffer from that. I'm probably a recovering FOMO symptomatic. So I
And
I
it's
I
it's no longer
completely
a
get
Gen Z
that.
or a teenager thing. I think FOMO is with everybody, any age.
Yes, and no, and it's true. I think that's one of the things is acknowledging that it's very true at any
Yeah.
age, at any stage of your life. Even when you're like done doing things, like,
Mm.
oh, if I'm doing this and that. And again, that goes back to priorities and being present
Mm.
in the moment. What is a priority for me right now? And the value, right? Because again, if I'm getting the value, my value from what's going on outside or what experience I had or what other people had to think about, what I'm doing, then I'm going to have conflicting with where I'm supposed to be at this moment. And a
Very
lot of
right.
times that's what happens, right? It's like the FOMO is because no, I am where I'm supposed to be. And I'm not grieving that I'm not there, because then that also
Yeah.
takes energy.
Yeah.
But being fulfilled in that, and it does take intentionality, it takes rest, it takes
True.
listening to yourself, it takes work to rest.
Yeah. And people nowadays don't want to rest. They don't want to spend time with themselves. They don't want to take some time off for themselves. Everybody is in a mode of running faster than before, especially in the age of AI, where now it's like, oh, let's learn about AI and, let's move. So in an age like this, how does one slow down? How does one take that step back and not worry about FOMO and not worry about missing out anything?
Yeah, so and as a leader, right? Because a lot of time the leader is the one that sets the rhythm, and many times people feel pressure to have to know all these things because of a leader, or if I don't keep up with everybody, I'm gonna FOMO, or I may lose what I have going on. So one of the key things is in again from going in a living with a misaligned heart at a time is that rest wasn't weakness at all, and it's for the leadership. Rest isn't weakness. It's actually rest is leadership
Yeah.
rhythm. We build that into that. Actually, the best leaders, they don't just create movement. It's not like they're always like all the stuff, because again,
Yeah.
if you don't let them rest, it's not good, right? What
Right.
great leaders do is they create that rhythm. We
Mm.
know we need to accelerate. We know when we need to slow down. We know when we need to adapt. We might need to go this way. We're still going to go to the goal, but we're going to need to be flexible. They create the flexibility. And then if you remember, think about when you're driving a car. Can you drive the car the same speed that you're going on a
Right.
straight road? No,
Mm.
you'll kill yourself. And I
Correct.
see that with
Correct.
leaders trying to do that. They don't want to slow down. We're going to shift. Well, what
Mm.
happens?
Mm. True. That is right.
Same thing happens. So in an age where everything's fast, you
Hmm.
still, one of the greatest skills that you're gonna be able to get as a leader is understand the rhythm and understanding when it's good to speed up, slow down,
Mm.
and
It
really that
isn't
only is gonna
easy.
happen with pause. No, you're gonna have to pause, you're gonna have to reflect, you're gonna have to realign, you're gonna have to be still. And in a world where it's telling you, don't be still, don't be still, don't be still, it's gonna take discipline.
Yeah. I think, our ancestors have told us this long back when we read in the scriptures and, in anything that, don't have excess of anything, excess work, excess of anything,
Mhm.
excess running for your work is going to weigh you down eventually. And my dad always tells me, he said, excess of anything is really bad for health. Anything,
Yeah.
so I think that's exactly like how you're saying it, that you need to take that step back to see what the next steps could look like. But in today's time, people don't want to give that time to themselves. Do you see any reason for that? Like, why do people not want to do this, even though they know that benefits, they know the effectiveness it can have?
Well, again, that misconception, right? I mean, a lot of it is lack of even self-compassion.
Hmm.
Um, because we tend to also look at like, oh, well, they're not doing this. So we know what happens when we think about that. And
Yeah.
well, am I also looking at the other person because I'm not being compassionate with myself? So a
Hmm.
lot of times is the lack of being compassionate, even of being aware of the times.
Hmm.
I'm a five. I've had five pregnancies. I couldn't go at 100% while I was pregnant or even after they were born. And I had to come to terms with that. Like, oh, I can still do it. I can still mug through it.
Hmm.
No, there's a time to rest. There's a
Right.
time where the important thing needs to be the important thing. And guess what? My pregnancy and the birth of my child is not going to matter the same to somebody else. And it's okay. It
Exactly.
doesn't have to be not their kid.
That is so
It's
true.
fine. So because people are thinking like, well, everybody else should understand, they won't.
Yeah.
We're all
Right.
trying to
I
like
agree.
make
I
sense
agree.
of what we're doing right now. So people get offended for that. Like, well, in the same thing, we don't provide that same compassion. Like, okay, they whatever they have going on without also attaching it to some sort of judgment. And we
Mm.
can't. So why don't we
Yeah.
slow down? Because we're afraid also of the judgment that may come along with that, the misunderstanding, or like, hey, they're not going to get it. They're not going to have to get it.
Exactly. I
You
think we take
can't.
that burden on ourselves, that I think it's like saying you have to be in the world and still you have to be detached from the world. You
Yes.
don't have to worry about everybody because who all are you going to worry about? So I like what you said. It's not your concern. It's not going to impact you. It's going to impact me finally. And I think that's such a wonderful thought to lock in. You said a word, self-compassion. Tell me, how is
Yes.
self-compassion related with this hustle, with the heart
Ooh.
and with your purpose and everything?
So think about self-compassion is the freedom to be able to reset, right? And it's that reset button that helps us with resilience. Again, think of your computer. Like you've had it on for a long time,
Yeah.
it stops working. And like, you can be sitting there like, and everything just shuts down. It's like, sense like you got to give it a break.
Yeah.
Same way is being compassionate with us to give ourselves a reset. You gotta be, and it takes compassion. It takes
Wow.
compassion to me because I cannot give what I don't have.
Mm.
I can't expect to be the best leader for other team members, a leader that is empathetic, a leader that connects, a leader that has rapport, a leader that sets environments where innovation can happen if I'm not setting up the environment for me to
Mm.
happen. So compassion is the more I can show compassion to myself, the more I'm going to be able to show compassion to others. And yes, we do need compassionate leaders. And think about how many times you may have been hurt in the past by a leader. I know I have been. I've been under good leadership. I've been under bad leadership. And yes, there is bad leadership.
Yeah.
And a lot of part of that is compassion. Doesn't mean that you are in any way, shape, or form compromising on the standard. The standard is a standard.
Mm.
We got to keep the standard, but how do we get there? That's what we're talking about. And even is the standard, the only time we question, is the standard something that can be sustained? And is it sustainable with what we have? But it's going to take compassion to even ask that question. Because what is it's the important thing to get to that productivity level. In the meantime, I've lost my team, morale is low.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
getting into debt, amazing debt, but we're gonna get there.
Right.
Okay, why? You know,
Mm.
you have to know your why. So you won't be able to ask the why if you're not compassionate with yourself.
Mm. I know.
Is that
That's right.
self-compassion is the reset. You can't lead others and be free of judgment of others and hope
Oh,
that as a leader you won't be judgment if you don't have that compassion
I
yourself.
love what you said. You cannot lead others without judgment if you have. I mean, this is superb. So,
Yeah.
as we're moving ahead, I know there's so much we can discuss, but, with this to wrap up, what would
Yeah.
be your biggest piece of advice to our listeners who want to succeed?
Yeah, well, thank you for asking that. So I think one of the things that you asked was, why do we not stop, right? And then we
Yeah.
also talk about ambition. And sometimes people think ambition is just a bad thing. And, then some people ambition, no, ambition is good. I think for this part is ambition and alignment can coexist. I think one of
Okay.
the one things is like it's okay to get to higher levels. Everything in us tells us to get to higher levels.
Yeah.
I mean, nature, the seasons happen. So we
Absolutely.
can get to
Yes.
higher things, right? I mean, so it's not saying like, no, stop, don't want that. It's not saying that at all. It's saying that ambition and alignment can coexist and actually set alignment that lets you amplify and work in that ambition. Again, think about the
Mm.
car. Think about you can be pushing that car all you want, but if the wheels aren't aligned, it's going to cause damage to everything
Yeah,
else. You're
absolutely.
not going to be able to get there. So my takeaway for people is realignment happens is when you take the time to recalibrate, and that means that you're going to have to pause. You're going to have to check with yourself and check with yourself every day, and that's good. And see where in are you in alignment with yourself, and when you're in alignment with yourself, your best leadership skills and
Mm.
creativity and performance come through to the people that you're serving. So understanding that there is a rhythm to leadership, understanding what is your rhythm. There's a rhythm to the things that you do. There's a rhythm to your purpose. There's a rhythm to the organizations that you're in. And the only way you're going to be able to really carry that out is alignment. And as leaders, that's our job. I couldn't, we, I didn't know this. I lived it through my entrepreneurship because I kept on wanting to have a team that, just love on them and feel they're secure and that stuff. But then my standards were going down and we couldn't do that. Then I
Mm.
went all standards and processes and systems. And hey, I got really good. But then I started losing the heart of people. I realized it wasn't about more processes and more systems. It wasn't about
Um,
me get more. It dealt back with me
so,
in as a
yeah.
leader when did I need to become the coaching leader? When did I need to become the leader that is a visionary leader? When do I need to become the leader that for my team? What is it that the team needed? So growing in my leadership allowed me to be able to serve my team, my organization, and myself to align the processes, the systems, the excellence that needed to happen so we can get to where we wanted to be, but also give me the love, the way that I care, the empathy, the compassion, the the coaching, the ability to be able to see the talents. It was only with me growing in that leadership and being aware of that that I was able to manage both. Otherwise, I was exhausted.
Oh my goodness. I mean, you have left us with so much of inspiration and to think of. And I'm seeing something behind that says, I will always have hope. Oh my goodness.
Oh
That is
yeah.
so good that you have behind on your
Yes.
desk. I mean, on the frame, it is superb on your bookshelf. So, the
That's the
inspiration you've
catalyst,
given. Yeah, I mean, I
That's
will
the
always have
catalyst.
hope.
Hope is a catalyst. People think that hope is like this thing, like this great thing. No, hope is the catalyst for action.
Yes,
I
yes.
noticed that I did not have a time management problem in areas. I had a hope problem in areas because I had
Oh,
lost hope. I was not looking there.
oh
So it
my
wasn't that I
God.
didn't have time. It was all about
True.
hope. So I would say that to leaders too. Check in with your hope because you
Hmm.
got to be that hopeful leader. That's going to align your actions. It's going to tell
Yeah.
you what to do.
Oh my
It's going to
goodness.
give you your
So good.
focus.
Wonderful. It was such a wonderful conversation with you, Hannah. I mean, we've learned a lot, and there is so much more to talk about. And thank you so much for being a part of this podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And this one's for our listeners. This is Hannah and Payal Nanjiani wishing you loads of success in your career life. God bless.
Yes, thank you.